Patim dashyati anurupaya te prabho. Translation. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. Purport. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here it is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama Muni to offer their daughter because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similarly qualified man. This is the duty of parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband, for when girls are grown up and are searching after a boy, they forget to consider whether the boy they select is actually suitable for them. Out of the urge of sex desire, a girl may accept anyone, but if the husband is chosen by the parents, they can consider who is to be selected and who is not. According to the Vedic system, therefore, the girl is given over to a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. Text 28. Samahitam te hridayam yatremham parivatsaran satvam brahman nirpavadhu kaman ashu bhajishyati. That princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. Purport. The Lord awards all benedictions according to the heart's desire of a devotee. So the Lord informed Kardama Muni, the girl who is coming to be married with you is a princess, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva, and so just suitable for your purpose. Only by God's grace can one get a nice wife just as he desires. Similarly, it is only by God's grace that a girl gets a husband suitable to her heart. Thus it is said that if we pray to the Supreme Lord in every transaction of our material existence, everything will be done very nicely and just suitable to our heart's desire. In other words, in all circumstances, we must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and depend completely on His decision. Man proposes, God disposes. The fulfillment of desires, therefore, should be entrusted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the nicest solution. Kardama Muni desired only a wife, but because he was a devotee of the Lord selected a wife for him who was the emperor's daughter, a princess. Thus Kardama Muni got a wife beyond his expectation. If we depend on the choice of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will receive benedictions in greater opulence than we desire. It is also significantly noted here that Kardama Muni was a Brahmana, whereas Emperor Swayambhuva was a Kshatriya. Therefore, intercaste marriage was current even in those days. The system was that a Brahmana could marry the daughter of a Kshatriya, but a Kshatriya could not marry the daughter of a Brahmana. We have evidences from the history of the Vedic age that Shukracharya offered his daughter to Maharaj Jayati, but the king had to refuse to marry the daughter of a Brahmana. Only with the special permission of the Brahmana could they marry. Intercaste marriage, therefore, was not prohibited in the olden days, many millions of years ago, but there was a regular system of social behavior. Text 29. Yata atma britam viryam navadha prasavishyati virye tudhiye rishaya adhasyati adhasyanchanjasatmanaha. She will bring forth 9 daughters from the seed sown in her by you, and through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children. So here we find that Kardama Muni had some further missions to perform by supplying daughters who will act as wives to the saintly persons and sages who will act as Prajapatis to populate the universe. We find that in all parts of the universe where a proper social system is maintained, the girls are never allowed to just run on the street and accept any boy they wish according to sex desire alone. Generally, although people will not exactly admit it, it is understood that the attraction that takes place between people is based almost entirely on the attraction of sex desire. Even if one wants to speak about somebody else's good qualities, man and woman we're speaking about, in fact, they won't even consider the good qualities of one, who is not sexually attractive. Although those who are attractive may be filtered out as to who are more attractive in other fields and who are less. But the basic deciding factor is who is attractive according to sexual desires. And this is the basic principle of the material world. Knowing this well, the Vedic culture did not allow anybody to just get married to anybody according to their desires. There was a regular system to regulate who would marry who and how. Of course, within that regulation, there was a lot of leeway. In other words, it was not that you had to marry that person and that's all, finished. But rather, it had to follow some rule. Limitation was there. The parents had to decide with the parents of the opposite party to have this marriage take place. And it was always done according to the qualities of the respective children. And usually they checked it out with some kind of astrological calculation, or some sage would say. And in this way, they knew that this match would be a good one. Nowadays, the parents don't care. And if they do care, all they care about is whether the husband has money or not. They don't really think in terms of the quality. Because after all, if incompatibility is there, there'll never be happiness. If the husband wants to go left and the wife wants to go right all the time, then you're going to have havoc in the household affairs. And where there's havoc in household affairs, there's also not very much peacefulness in spiritual life. So for the sake of developing proper spiritual affairs and a society which at least is peaceful, and without peace, how can you be happy? And without that kind of basis, how can one progress in his advancement of life? Therefore, the Vedic culture prescribed certain basic rules. The first basic rule was, it's best for the daughter of a Brahmana to marry a Brahmana. However, a daughter of a Brahmana could also marry a Kshatriya with the permission of the father alone, just like with Maharajayati. And this would specifically be in relationship to kings. But it was not looked upon as very, very auspicious. But on the other hand, a Kshatriya, the daughter of a Kshatriya, could marry a Brahmana. That was not so unusual, didn't require special permission or arrangements. So those from a lower position in the Varnas could marry those in the upper position of the Varnas. However, the Brahmana should never marry the daughter of a Vaishya or a Sudra. That just didn't work. There are certain laws like that. Anulo and Pratilom. And there were also certain persons who were born of those combinations who also had certain propensities. A Suta is the son of a Brahmana father and a Kshatriya mother. And the Sutas, they generally were expert in the recitation of the Puranas. Every government of a king had one Suta who would recite the Puranas in the court of the king, and in this way give some spiritual inspiration. It was like practically, according to Grandfather Bhishma, a principle which should be maintained. So these Sutas were the product of Brahminical and Kshatriya mixes. So we find that there are various mixes like that. But in general, one should avoid having mixtures which would bring incompatibility in the marriage. And this was always checked out beforehand. So in the case of Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni, there was not going to be any incompatibility with the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni, because Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had arranged this match. And when Krishna arranges, then we should understand that it has to be a success. Whatever Krishna arranges will be a success, even if it seems to be a failure externally. When Krishna arranges things, just like Krishna arranged that gambling match between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. And although externally it turned out to be a huge failure for the Pandavas, who were banished into the forest for 13 years. In fact, it was a grand success according to Krishna's arrangement, because the burden of the earth, which was filled with so many Kshatriyas who were unnecessary defense forces, was reduced at the Battle of Kurukshetra to nil. So we find that this was Krishna's plan and Krishna's choice, therefore it was a great success. We find this in regard to other aspects of the pastimes of Krishna, how something may seem to be externally very difficult or not very advantageous, but internally, because it brought one to a point of surrender, it was very good. It's like Prabhupada explained in relationship to his own marriage. He said, there were 2 girls who were being considered for me to marry. I wanted one of them because she was very good looking and a good cook. My father wanted the other one because she was not very good looking and not a good cook. So I was very disturbed, but because my father wanted, I had to accept. And then he started to chuckle. And then he said, my father was a very intelligent man. So, when one has a different vision on things, he will arrange things in a very nice way. And that way may not be externally understandable for the common mass of man. For instance, everybody thinks that to have a beautiful wife is the best thing of all. If your wife is beautiful, you're on top of the world. But the problem with having a beautiful wife is that other men are also chasing her. And generally they're not very faithful. So one is filled with all kinds of anxieties in the mind. In fact, one of the enemies, according to Chanakya Pandit, is a beautiful wife. Because she will always cause you trouble in the heart. Always be threatening you in subtle ways, that if you don't do exactly what she wants, she's got 50 other men out the door waiting. And you had better surrender right now. In this way, she becomes an enemy, forcing you to do things which you may not like to do. Now, we find that according to the standards of material society, that which is very good may be very bad. We find in Bhagavad Gita, that there is a statement that says that which is night for the conditioned soul is day for the enlightened soul, and just oppositely as well. That which is night for the enlightened soul is day for the conditioned soul. In other words, that which we think is auspicious or very nice or very enlightening will be for the conditioned soul just night, darkness, something which he doesn't want. For instance, our activities in Krishna consciousness do not include activities for satisfying the bodily whimsies. They are only including activities which are bringing out spiritual advancement. Therefore, sometimes we have to do things which may not be very good according to our own bodily desires. Just like, for instance, our regulative principles. They must be followed for the sake of spiritual advancement. Our material body may not like that. Therefore, from the point of view of the conditioned soul, that's night. Because who wants to follow these things from the point of view of just being the body? However, and those who, even thinking they're the body, know a little bit about the way things work in this world, know that when you break these principles, it's also very bad for the body. It pollutes the body, fills it with poisons, causes unnecessary anxieties, and ultimately ends in all kinds of horrible diseases, which are like anything expanding more and more in this material world nowadays. So we find that the material body may have so many problems. And the material mind as well may have so many problems. But so long as we are staying within the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that which we are doing, although externally it may not seem to be very perfect, is actually just right. Because only Krishna knows perfectly well what should be there for us in a perfect way. Only Krishna has a complete understanding of everything that is going on everywhere. Therefore, he can balance everything. Yeah. Sometime, I remember once, very interesting, not interesting, it wasn't very nice at all, but anyway, interesting to talk about later on. In Mauritius, there was this car accident that Srila Prabhupada was once in, and he got somewhat hurt in it. And actually, I was going to go, but before I went to sit in the front seat, two other persons said, "No, you cannot go," and pushed me out. And I got very angry. Yeah. And I went back into the house and just waited around, chanted all Hare Krishna because I was so angry why they wouldn't let me go. And then when they drove out in the car, they both went through the windshield. So later on, Prabhupada said, "Krishna saved you." So although to me it seemed like this was very bad, actually Krishna within the heart was telling, don't let him go. You don't want him in there. And in this way, it was very auspicious. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes we lament, oh, why we can't get so much money like all the others. Billions of crowns. Yes, but factually, this kind of opulence becomes like a noose which is tied around the neck. And the more of it, the more you hang from the tree. The material opulences, which may be very nice from the point of view of the material vision, are also like anchors, which cause us to fall down into the ocean of material nescience. That's why Lord Chaitanya's devotees are called Akinchana Gochar. They are in the dynasty of those who have nothing. Because the more you have, the more weight it is. Therefore, it is very good to not possess things. Not to have all kinds of valuable jewels, for instance. And just for an example, I mean, if you wear a ring and you work with a machine, usually what happens is the ring gets caught at one point and rips your finger off. I've seen and heard about this many, many times. People who wear rings and machines, they always somehow get their fingers stuck in a ring, or they're hanging from the ring as something is moving along. Yeah. Or if you are even walking the streets of New York City and you've got a little golden chain around your neck, they just come up to you and say, "Give the chain," and if you don't, it may be worth $10. So although something may seem from the material point of view to be very good, and in fact it's not very good at all. We find in India there are intelligent people there, especially in Calcutta, where the tax problem is very difficult. They may have crores and crores of rupees somewhere, but they live in an apartment not much bigger than this room. They drive an old 20-year-old ambassador car. Because the more you show, the more of a target you are. Then others, they start to become envious, and they want to take it away from you. Yeah. Therefore, those who are intelligent, very intelligent persons, they never display any opulence whatsoever. Yeah. They don't like to show that they have great material wealth and prosperity. Because they know as soon as you display like that, there's somebody ready to take it all away. That's the nature of the material world. It's just like in the forest with the wolves ready to steal away, the jackals ready to take away everything. The material world's like that. Therefore, one should not be very much eager for material opulent conditions. Yeah. One should not be very much eager for things which are seemingly very nice from the material point of view. Therefore, we make things simple. Because the more complicated you make something, the more entangled you become within it. Therefore, simplicity is very beautiful. because it gives a certain kind of freedom. Yeah. And, however, those who know the art of things know that if Krishna wants to give, then we can't even take everything he wants to give. And if Krishna wants to take away, nobody can prevent him from doing so. Therefore, one should not be in anxiety for getting things. If they come automatically by Krishna's grace, that's very good. And if not, that's also very good, because it is up to Krishna. Well, now we come to a tricky point. How much should we try to serve Krishna? Well, you should try 100%. But what if you're trying to serve Krishna by building him a nice temple? Well, then you should work like 100%. But then you just said you should take what comes automatically. Yes, but do you expect that Krishna is going to hit you on the head with a pile of money as you're walking down the street? No, you must endeavor. Man proposes, God disposes. One should try, has his desire, sincerely serve, just like Kardama Muni was sincerely engaged in meditative process, trying to serve the Lord. And it was the Lord himself who disposed, who allowed, or who arranged for the desires to be fulfilled automatically. So man has his desires, and the Lord, he knows how to fulfill those desires in such a way that everybody will be satisfied. He knows how to balance all these desires. We don't know. Just like we may take opulence, but we may be causing somebody else to suffer because of what we have taken. Ishavasham principle. I should take just so much and not more. Because if I take more, I may be usurping that which is meant for someone else's quota. So if I'm taking too much, then I'm also guilty of sinful activity of depleting someone else. Therefore, better that I only take what I require, and if Krishna wants to give more, he will. Everything is depending on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I should not get in the way of Krishna. This is one of the ways in which an advanced devotee thinks. Krishna has his plan, Krishna has his desires. I should not get in the way of Krishna's plan or Krishna's desires. I should try to act in such a way that I will help Krishna in his plan or in his desire. Whatever Krishna wishes to accomplish, I should help him accomplish. Not that I should get in the way of what Krishna wants with my own desires. I may have so many desires. I have unlimited desires. After all, that's the nature of the soul. It's filled with desires. But if my desire gets in the way of Krishna's desire, then what's the use of all this desire? It is simply causing one to become entangled, wrapped up in this material world more and more. Therefore, one should only desire that which is wanted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Krishna wanted Kardama Muni to have this good wife, so the desire of Kardama Muni was all right. Because sometimes devotee may ask, what is a sage doing busy desiring a wife? Well, because Krishna desired, his desire was perfect. And whether or not you agree with that or not doesn't matter. Whether or not you understand that doesn't matter. Because Krishna, he had desire. And Kardama, he had desire. They happened to be the same, therefore it was perfect. Krishna wished that Kardama supply the sages nice wives for the generation of population in the universe, because it is Krishna's desire that all the living entities fulfill their desire. But you cannot fill your desire without a body, so you need a body. But to get a body, you need parents. And so somebody's got to be the parents somewhere. Not that, of course, now we have mercy upon all these conditioned souls, and now we all have to get married to produce children, so that they can have parents. There'll always be plenty of parents, don't worry. Nowadays. But then, at that time, there wasn't enough parents. At that time, there weren't any living entities practically in the universe. Just very few here and there, compared to now. Therefore, Prajapatis required. Population required. Sages needed good wives. So, Kardama was very useful in that affair. How to create some good wives for sages, saintly persons. This was just according to the requirement of the Lord. So that was perfect. When Krishna wishes that you take up such a role, then you will also be acting perfectly. However, if Krishna does not wish, and you take up such a role anyway, then you can ruin your whole life. One should only understand the point that one should do what Krishna desires. And it is not a question of whether it's this or that or the other thing. Look, Arjuna was engaged in killing. Who's going to say that's a good activity? If I say, what do you think about killing? You say, oh, this is very bad. One should not kill. But Arjuna was a killer. A good one, too. So, we glorify Arjuna for being an expert in that affair. An expert slaughterer of men. And he's glorified throughout all time. Why? Because Krishna wanted him to do like that. Therefore, it's perfect. You cannot say it's bad just because you think killing's bad. Killing is neither good nor bad. Because after all, Krishna is the best killer of all. Because he kills everyone. Mrityu sarvaharashtaham. He's killing every single living entity, everywhere, in the whole creation, all the time. Not the living entity, the bodies. Because everybody dies. You cannot say death is bad, because it's there. It's just part of life. Birth is not bad nor good. Death is not bad nor good. From one point of view, it's all the same. However, from the point of view of spirituality, better not to take birth. But once you've taken birth, you've got to die. And better to die and go back home, back to Godhead, than to live forever. In that case, death is good. Very good. For he who's going to die and go back to Godhead, death is great. For he who's going to die and take birth again, not very nice. So therefore, things become good or bad according to the way in which they are, exactly according to Krishna's desires. Something may seem to be very good from this point of view, but from Krishna's point of view, it's not at all very good. Therefore, one must put himself in line with Krishna's point of view. Whatever it is that Krishna wishes done, that we should do. So, the whole life should be dedicated to pleasing Krishna. And when it is so dedicated, then Krishna, within the heart, with the torchlight of knowledge, destroys the darkness which is born of ignorance. When Krishna, within the heart, understands that the devotee is sincere to actually fulfill the desire of the Lord, then Krishna very nicely starts to inspire that devotee from within how to act perfectly, or how to do things for the satisfaction of the Lord. And satisfying the Lord's lotus feet is the perfection of life, and a real devotee simply wants to do that. And the Lord, because he is the one who grants the remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, and intelligence as well, he is giving the devotee the way by which he may come to him and please him in his activities. So therefore, our perfection will come when our desire and Krishna's desire is one. This is real oneness. When the desire of the lover and the desire of the beloved become one. And in this way, we should make our desires and Krishna's desire one. Not that we have to change Krishna's desire. Our desire must change. We must develop pure Krishna conscious understanding by becoming very close to the Lord. He's within our hearts. He's just waiting for us to turn to him. He's just waiting for us to serve him in love and say, my Lord, whatever you want, that's what I do. Whatever you want, I do. You are the Lord. You are the master. I am your slave. Just make me dance as you like. When we have such a feeling of surrender, then in such an attitude, we will find the perfect connection with the Supreme. That is yoga. The pure yoga means one just acts according to the desires of the Lord and nothing more. Not that one becomes inactive. One acts, but simply for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is perfect yoga. And that is the goal of Krishna consciousness. So let us come to the point of acting perfectly for the satisfaction of the Lord. Just like now, it seems that he wants to appear next Friday. That's 1 week. He's not going to appear next week unless we make all the arrangements for him to do so. Which means we're going to end this class and run out the door. So we can all make arrangements by working twice as hard and twice as fast and twice as good and half as spaced out. So we can actually accomplish that which Krishna wants. For when he wants to appear, who are we to say, no, you must wait, we're not done yet? You do not make offering to the Lord and ask him to wait. You simply make all arrangements for him to do what he wishes to do. So let's do it. Haribol.